narrations. Their madhab is a very simplistic madhab. We believe in whatever came in the Quran and in the Sunnah as it came, without divulging into how or what it means, or giving a tafsir, or talking in detail. We don't do all of that. But when Allah describes Himself, we know there's nothing like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if a person says Allah's hand is over their hands, and he put his hand up to say like over, his hand should be cut off. See, this was their madhab. They were very strict on that. So a person, and the imam of this madhab was Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah. If a person tries to say Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, tabarak wa ta'ala, believe Allah ta'ala was a physical body, or was a huge figure sitting on a throne, and try to ascribe that to his madhab, that person has no understanding whatsoever of the madhab of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal or the Ahlul Hadith. Their methodology was that we believe in it as it came, and we don't divulge into the kayf. So Allah Ta'ala, al-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa bila kayf. Allah Ta'ala made istiwa on the throne. Ar-Rahman did istiwa on the throne without how. Without howness. Meaning, we don't add any other word in. No descriptive word is added to that right there, and we leave it just as it is. We don't say bidatihi. We don't say bihad. We don't say imtala'a minhu al-arsh. I'm going to translate. We don't say He made istiwa over the throne in His essence or in Himself. That He Himself went over the throne. We don't say that because Allah didn't say that. That if Allah wanted to say that, would have came in the ayat, right? Allah would have said that if He wanted that to be said. But He didn't say that. So we stop where the revelation stops. That's it. So this was their methodology. We don't say, they said, we don't say that Allah Ta'ala made istiwa on the throne bihad, with a limit or with a boundary, with a barrier. So He made istiwa on the throne, and then there's a barrier between Him and the throne. That's a takyif. That's giving it a kayfiyah. That's a modality. They didn't used to say that. They didn't say that He made istiwa on the throne, and the throne became full of Him, and He descends to the first heaven without the throne becoming empty of Him. They didn't say nothing like that. Some people who came later who said they were Hanbali said some of that stuff. Okay, Ibn Taymiyyah used to say that. Okay? He the one who used to say that. But this was not the methodology of the early Hanbali scholars and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala himself. So this needs to be kept in mind. So I'm saying that, I'm mentioning like this because Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala was the first. He was the first of this madhab, but he was the first from whom it was popularized. And these scholars, these were the Ahlul Hadith, the people of the Hadith. And that name says it all. If anybody in Philly says that they from Ahlul Hadith, yet they add to the Hadith was not from the Hadith, you tell them, Akhi, you cannot be from Ahlul Hadith if you're adding to the Hadith what the Prophet didn't say in the Hadith. Stick to that name. If you want to take that name, you want to claim that name for yourself, that's your name, stick to that and don't go outside of it. Say what the Hadith say and be silent. Don't say bihad. Don't say with a boundary because it didn't come in a Hadith or in an Athar. It didn't come from the Prophet. Don't say Allah Ta'ala is on the throne. Wa alaikum wa barakatuh. Hayakallah. Akhi. Inshallah. Don't say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on the throne in such a way where the throne gets full of Him and it doesn't get empty of Him. Don't go there because the Hadith didn't go there. And to try to conjecture that or to try to interpolate that into the words of the Prophet ﷺ is not permissible. That was their methodology. And they didn't divulge into the polemics, into the aspects of Islamic theology that are very deep aspects that require knowledge beyond the Hadith and the Quran. Meaning that if it required of a person to know logic, to know reason, to know philosophy and the terms that the philosophers used to use, Jawhar, and arad and jism and all these things, if it called to using all of these extra words, all these terminologies that are not found in the Quran or Sunnah, they didn't have any talk about it. They didn't divulge into it. They didn't go into it. And the second group then would be either of these two, because some scholars differ about who was born first. There was al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, rahimahullah ta'ala, and Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, rahimahullah. These two Imams were the Imams also of the Ahlul Sunnah. So these three Imams represent the Imams, the three Imams of the three madhabs of Ahlul Sunnah in terms of creed. When we're talking about its most basic form, the most basic fundamental form, which is the foundations of the religion, the usul ad-din. Now, please listen closely, inshallah. There's a second floor. There's another floor. There's another level higher than that called ilm al-kalam. The science of theology. The science of learning how to debate and defend the creed by using the same arguments that the deviant groups of the Mu'tazila and Jahmiyyah and other groups use to try to refute Ahlul Sunnah, to learn their same language and learn their same arguments to defeat them through logic, through reason, and of course, through using the Quran and the Sunnah. That is called ilmul kalam, which the Ahlul Hadith wal Athar did not divulge in. So then, this is why we said that second level is only, there's two madhabs. The first level had three madhabs. The second level only had the madhab of al-Hasan al-Ash'ari and Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, rahimahumullah tabaraka wa ta'ala. As for Ahlul Hadith, they did not divulge into this second level. Why? They were not the third madhab in this, because it was not from their methodology to divulge into logic and reason and such. They said that if we only accept the text as they came, we shouldn't have to divulge into anything beyond that. There's no reason we should go beyond that. And in their time, since they were first, since they came the earliest, in their time, there was less reason. There was much less reason for a person to learn polemics and to learn theology by way of reason and philosophy. There was less reason because the fitna of the different groups was pretty much on the down low. They had some people, but they didn't have the influence that they had in later times. Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah ta'ala, got tested with some of that. Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, was also on the methodology of the Ahlul Hadith, in the sense that he accepted the text as they came. A person doesn't read about, he debated, he got into details, and he started talking about the Arad and Johar and all this stuff, and went to the Romans and Greeks and debated. That wasn't really his thing, actually. His methodology wasn't based on that. But he also was very firm against people who took a hadith that the outward meaning of it could be interpreted to mean Allah has a physical body, and unite or join or try to combine and compile all of those hadith one after another. The hadith of this or the hadith of that, the hadith of Allah Ta'ala, he put his foot into the hellfire. Then the hadith of the shin, then the hadith of the voice, and the hadith of this and that. He would get upset if somebody used to mention these one after another. Someone did that in his presence, and this story actually is mentioned in Siyar A'lam Nubala. Al-Imam al-Dhahabi, rahimahullah ta'ala, mentions an account where someone did this in his presence, and he said that don't do this. This is not right to do this. Al-Imam al-Dhahabi, rahimahullah, said, well, maybe the reason this was, why he got upset, was because those hadiths were not sound with him. As far as he was concerned, they came from chains of narration that were not sound. But the greater majority of the Ahlul Sunnah, they disagree with him about that, and they say, no, he said that because the outward meaning, if interpreted literally, can have an anthropomorphic kind of